No.
No?
No.
Oh, you asked a question. I was just-
Good evening, everybody. So we're going to call to order, but I need to ask the people if they don't have a mask, if you could get a mask. I think there's some in the back. Does everybody need to be masked? Thank you. So the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we need a motion of consent to approve the minutes from October 21st, 2021 and November 18th, 2021. So moved. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? So carried. We have communication board discussion, presentations, and math curricular update. Mr. Dan's going to be here.
Anybody here? Over there? Math update. Is
Math?
who gonna be here?
We have our math people.
Okay, there they are. All right. There they are. Yeah, it's use the teacher voice. Like the voice on. You gotta use your teacher voice, like the voice on. Okay.
I don't know if you're gonna put the presentation up. It doesn't matter, or at least to the, not,
Oh, is this investigation?
yeah.
We're gonna find out.
December. So I'm Jackie Wilson, I'm a K-5 teacher leader and I'm here at EJA.
And Tori Yost, also K-5 teacher leader, and I'm special education in Coxsackie-Athens.
So this spring will be the first time the students will be tested on the next generation math standards. These new standards are very similar to the Common Core standards. They've added more concrete, hands-on models to the standards. And there's a focus on depth of knowledge and using concrete, representational, and abstract going through all three of those processes when teaching math to help children have a better understanding. When developing our math curriculum maps, we use the learning standard crosswalks. You'll find a link to that in the presentation. We're using the math modules in K-5. They haven't been updated, but we've been working to make sure that we're including more hands-on manipulatives and representational models when teaching. And also we're working with Heidi Bromley to align our maps.
These are not ours. These are not
I
ours.
know.
We have a couple more things
Okay.
to finish up.
Why don't you just go through it and we'll go from the slides. We don't have this.
Okay, well,
Okay.
we'll forward them to you after we do all of that.
Yeah. The next slide was talking about the COVID protocols in terms of manipulatives. And they've been more relaxed this year, which has been beneficial. The students continue to use hand sanitizer before and after use. But we also have many apps through the iPads for instruction, practice, and also for intervention. We have school subscriptions to Zern, Reflex Math, and then 3rd and 4th grade have IXL. And then in addition, in K-2, our TI and SPED providers and some of the classroom teachers have been trained to use touch math in the classroom and for interventions. And then the final piece of our slides is kind of talking about our next steps and moving forward. So our action steps for math include professional development. We keep referring back to the LINK plan that we developed at the beginning of the year in order to make sure that we're covering all of our action steps. So moving forward in December and January, we have planned a faculty meeting to continue to train teachers to use new interventions. And we're excited about it. We've kind of created a choose your own adventure model. So elementary staff will be choosing from a variety of different platforms, different programs, and teacher leaders will be training. And we're also having professionals from some of the apps that we're using come in and do some trainings on that as well. We're going to continue to meet with our math consultant, Heidi Brownlee, to align the maps vertically and across the grade levels and through the buildings. And then we're also excited that some specific classes in 3rd through 5th grade will be piloting a new app called Reflex Frac that tailors the needs to fractions and interventions, using interventions there.
Thank you.
Basically, the secondary. You can go ahead and put those slides up. Hi, guys. My name's Jason Dan. If you don't know me, I am the teacher leader for the math department 712 now. Give you a quick update on our next gen standards. To be honest with you, well, they were adopted in 2017. We went through and did a lot of, the state asked for a lot of feedback from teachers. So really what happened with the standards is that we took the Common Core learning standards and they kind of cleaned them up. They added more specifics as far as, you know, teach specifically these types of skills. Otherwise, there really weren't all that many differences. Next year's the first year they'll do 3 through 8, then they'll do algebra, then they'll do geometry, then they'll do algebra 2. Like I said, overall, not a big difference. The biggest changes they made, like globally, were just shifting standards. They took a few from, let's say, 9th grade, put them to 8th grade. Took a couple from 7th, put them to 6th. Okay. Overall, they took out a few more standards than they put in. They only added a few. You can go ahead and put a couple more in there. We started using the next gen standards through the eMath instruction program. I just took a couple of key things. Some of this stuff is not going to mean a lot to you if you don't know math very well. But 7th grade, they added box plots. They were already doing it, but they now have to kind of make them. They moved some stuff to the statistics at 6th grade. 8th grade, they didn't add anything new. They moved some stuff to Algebra 1, frequency tables. Algebra 1, they moved some stuff. They got rid of completing the square, and residuals, which a lot of students will be happy about, because that's a kind of a complicated thing for 9th graders. They added stuff with irrational numbers, which they used to do, which is like adding, subtracting, square roots and things of that nature. For geometry, they added area of a triangle using trig, graphing the circle equation, which we always did anyways. And then algebra 2 probably had the most stuff added, but they did take out some significant stuff with statistics in the 3x3 systems. So, what's the impact for us? Overall, not a whole heck of a lot, to be honest with you. In the high school, it's going to be very minor changes. As far as moving forward, as the courses roll out, we will update our curriculum with the next gen books that we're already using. They'll be updated to reflect the small changes that we already have. So other than that, for the high school, the next gen standards are going to be very minimal. Like students won't even really notice a change. You guys have any questions?
I'm going to try to attempt a question here.
Go ahead.
Since we always talk about moving forward with project-based learning now and in the future. Can you elaborate a little bit on how your department is currently set up, or what things in the future we can do to move in that direction of project-based learning with our students as it is reflected by the math department.
Okay, and so as far as the next gen standards, that won't affect that at all. As far as using project-based learning, it's different courses lend themselves easier than others. Some classes have kind of like almost an overload of content that we have to give. Kind of the higher you go up, like Algebra 2, Brian can talk about this. It's jam-packed. It makes it difficult. We transferred over to block scheduling, which could make it easier for some project stuff, but it also is difficult when we don't see our students every day, to kind of keep the consistency going and kind of, it's sort of like, if you miss a kid on a Thursday, let's say, you don't see him again until Monday, that's almost a week. So some of that stuff is tough. As far as using project-based learning, we can do some of it. It's one of those things with math that you can probably hit a handful of units throughout the year. But due to there's the content, it's difficult for students to do a project and discover new math content on their own. So it's something I think we can continue to keep doing, but it's not, every unit doesn't lend itself to it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Absolutely. Anything else? All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, we have a student liaison here.
Yeah, Grace Bartels is here.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Grace Bartels. I'm the vice president of the Varsity Club. The president still couldn't be here today, Michael O'Connor and Brandon Morehouse, so I'm stepping in. Don't worry, it's worth it. I'm a part of 4 varsity programs here at Coxsackie-Athens. Today I'm here to recap the fall sports season. I'm a part of the cross country and soccer program, so I have a good understanding of how the season went. Before I get to that, the background and morale of the Varsity Club, we try and foster spirit and provide opportunity for service in the school and community. So we don't just focus on varsity programs, we try and include ourselves in the program and community as a whole. Some things we've done that have really stuck out and made us beneficial to everybody. We participated in Cooking with Santa with the elementary schoolers. We sold spirit items at homecoming football games, which brought spirit to the community and profit to our club. We have a senior spotlight newsletter. We're trying to make the seniors year worth it ever since COVID, just because a lot of them lost things their junior and sophomore years. So we want to make sure they have the most of their seasons this year. And then we host our 2nd annual SB Awards this year, which commemorates not only our varsity athletes, but our seniors who are leaving, like I said earlier. All right, the recap. First, we have varsity girls soccer. That's a team full of hardworking athletes, definitely. Soccer is a tough sport. We thought to get into sectional playoffs, but it didn't work out how we wanted it. But we're definitely eager to get back next season and see what we can accomplish. Boys soccer, this is a good one. Whoa. Boys soccer had a bright season this year. They advanced through 2 rounds of sectional playoffs, and the PK shootout, if you were there, will definitely remain unforgettable in all of our eyes. Varsity girls tennis had a great season. They ended up 2nd in the Big Conference and sent 4 players to the Section 2 individual playoffs or tournament, which is very amazing. I know Piper Chimentel and Measure Marino were 2 of the individuals selected for that, which are both seniors. Varsity girls tennis, I just said that. Varsity field hockey, they fought hard this season. I spoke to Mae Squire, who's a senior on the team. They secured multiple wins for the program, and all the seniors will be missed. They had more than 3, they had 5. Varsity girls volleyball introduced a new coach, the Spanish teacher, Ms. Mar. She has a great background on volleyball, so she brought new techniques and skill sets to the table for the girls, which is highly beneficial to all of them. Varsity football also had a new coach. Our new high school gym teacher, Coach Matarazzo. They were full of grit, and they ended up winning the last 2 games, and that left them all eager to return next season. And then we have varsity golf. They introduced many new members. Most of them were cross athletes. So Dylan Hines played football and did golf. They all had very high scoring seasons, and multiple people on that team ended up winning the Trune All-Star Conference first team and second team. And then I'm going to end it with cross country because we were super successful this season. The boys worked hard and they won the mid-season Super Duel meet, which comprised of all the teams in the Patroon Conference. They ended up getting first, however, they fell short at the actual Patroon Conference meet, but that did not stop them from wanting to return next year in a minute. And then the girls, we were undefeated this season and became two-time Patroon Conference champions. And a first place finisher from our team actually won the Patroon Conference meet, which was very amazing. And then we ended up going to sectionals and placing sixth. So yeah, any questions about anything this season besides specific stats? Because I was not every team.
Grace, I have a question.
All right.
And I'm gonna focus on the new mascot that we have. Can you discuss the level of interest and excitement in the new Riverhawk mascot?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that going into it, obviously there was a divide. However, I think that at the homecoming football game, when we announced it, it definitely brought lots of, I would say the student body became more patriotic towards our new mascot, considering that everyone seemed to welcome it. As a varsity athletes, JV athletes, modified athletes, were excited and eager to embrace the new mascot. I mean, it's very important that we don't maybe forget about being an Indian, but it's also important to begin this new chapter in our athletic community as Riverhawks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Nice job. Okay, thank you, Greg. Committee reports. There's just a note that negotiation committee has met and we will be starting the whole process of negotiations with the teachers after the new year. Innovation committee.
The Innovation Committee met again last night, and I just want to thank the members of the committee, Maureen Hans, David Taylor, and Mike Donahue. I want to thank the administrators and staff for their year-long efforts in collecting information on the current reconfiguration proposal. We had last night we had again another spirited debate, and we were able to come to consensus and make a recommendation to the board tonight on how to proceed in the future. First, we'd like to table the current reconfiguration proposal as it's been addressed this current year. So we'd like to table that proposal. And in its place, we'd like to recommend a community task force similar to the 2030 committee that we had 2 years ago prior to COVID. If you recall, we used that committee to form board policies, board goals, and to give us direction. It gave us a blueprint. So we'd like to go along with that same theme and recommend that the superintendent create this community task force representing various constituencies in our district, and basically to look at the resource and equities that may currently exist and what may exist in the near future. So that's our recommendation, is to form a community task force to address these inequities that may exist currently and in the future. And we would recommend that we start that at the first of the year and conclude that somewhere around the end of March. And we also discussed a little bit about the policies and protocols as it relates to any possible threats within our school district and our communities that may take place in our schools. And we have a school safety committee that's meeting in the near future to address some of those concerns. That's my report.
Okay.
I don't know if Randy or Terry want to comment any further.
No, I think, again, the committee understands and welcomed all the information they've received from the administration, from the surveys, et cetera, on the grade regrouping. I think everybody's in agreement that we want to make sure that we continue to try to maximize consistency and equality amongst all grades, particularly the elementary grades. We want to continue to advance the idea of student well-being, access to resources. We want class sizes that don't bounce around year in, year out. Support of accelerating innovation, instruction, and learning. And I think the innovation committee has made it clear, we want to make sure we're utilizing all of our spaces on both campuses effectively and efficiently. We're enhancing student relationships across the district as early as possible. We try to provide time for additional enrichment interventions for all grades, not just elementary, and also to make sure we're in a position to support and provide 4-year-old pre-K to all eligible students. I think Carrie.
Yes, I think one of the things we talked about at the Innovation Committee meeting is that obviously there are concerns that the district is looking to address. So we've talked about the declining enrollment. We talked about the fact that we have to do, we bus students over to Coxsackie-Athens, or to Coxsackie, excuse me, for special education services. We're going to now be busing Coxsackie children over to Athens to get the pre-K services. And that does cause that fluctuation between the grade levels and trying to figure out how to be the most efficient and effective. But one of the things we talked about at the Innovation Committee, and the reason the idea of the task force came about, which was a great suggestion that I do believe came from Bart or Mike or both, is the idea that while the administrators did look at some different possibilities, and we really felt like the possibilities that we were looking at, swing zones, or the possibility of balancing classes based on the time that students enroll or fill out the registration packet, those would address the issues of the balancing class sizes, but wouldn't really get at the underlying academic equities that we were trying to provide for students. So that maybe a task force might come up with some ideas that we didn't think of in that particular thing, or would it at least be an opportunity for everybody to hear what the concerns are and try and talk our way around how to address them in the best manner possible.
And I think what this does too, it gives the members of the public, and in our surrounding district, an opportunity to come and participate. Stakeholders can come, and the intent is to have the public come at their will and share in that discussion and collaborate and try to come up with some ideas that we can use and move forward. And I think in the process of doing that, they'll learn more about our current situation and what our future may look like going down the road. And I think it would be a good collaborative effort with all that participate.
Can I say something? I guess I'm just extremely frustrated because we've been discussing this for over a year and now we're coming with this recommendation. We should have done this months, a year ago. These people need to know what's going on with their lives. Very, very frustrated that we're not getting there. We keep saying enrollment's declining, but we keep hiring administrators. So we need to look at something. And I'm
Well,
not
that's the purpose of this committee is to look at all the avenues we could possibly go down. Because whether or not this board wants to address those issues or another board in the future, there needs to be a blueprint of how these boards proceed in handling these situations.
And I understand that, and we've been discussing and asking for these things for a year, if not longer.
I mean, that's true. We have been asking, and then it just seems like every time there seems to be like opposition to the idea, then it's a new reason why we have to reconfigure. So that's just, I get it. I think that I understand where you're coming from, and I understand that we want community input, but I get Jamie's frustration because I feel very frustrated. In fact, I don't know. I just feel like.
But the recommendation is to table it. We're going to table this, which means we're putting it aside and we're moving in a new direction. This is a new proposal. It's a new direction. We're putting this aside. Now, if the members of the community decide in this task force that they want to look at that proposal at some point, they're welcome to do so. But it's hoped that we can strategize a blueprint and a game plan moving forward.
Again, my frustration is this should have been done a year ago.
I am frustrated like a lot of members of this board, okay? But the process has led us to this point. So now we have to look at some solutions of how we move forward. And I'm all ears if other people have other solutions today or tonight to look at. But I think that this proposal that we're recommending is something we should take some serious look at.
And over 60% of the survey that I thought was very skewed, the way the questions were asked, did not want the change right now. And I get that. And I understand if we lose more population, things may have to happen. But we need these people to know where their kids are going in the fall.
I think that's the dilemma, is that we need to know that, but we have to decide on the direction and go in it. And this didn't seem to be the popular or, after a lot of consideration, the direction that a lot of people wanted to go in. But then what do? If enrollment keeps dropping and there's a disparity when kids come into kindergarten and how many kids are in Coxsackie and how many are in EJ Arthur. And there's teachers in one building with 16 kids in their class and teachers in the other building with 12. So there's a lot of issues to try to grapple, which is why it's taken so long. We have to keep grappling at it. And I think if not now, it's gonna come at us. I know there was another survey though that is also still not done that you would ask for, Ina, around people moving in with children to see if there's a thought of a spike maybe in the population of the building. But I think this was an attempt to bring people into this process too, and have some investment in the future of our kids. I think that's where, that's what we all want. That's the goal. It is frustrating. And I think the whole survey, I know for me, I wanted to hear from people about what they thought about that proposal. And a lot of people participated. And so that was good. And we got a lot of information. And I think now this is a way to get people involved to, okay, here's our problems. What do we do?
And nobody's saying that we're going ahead with reconfiguration.
Right.
That's an idea that's tabled.
Right. Could be an entirely different idea.
Members of the community could
come
have
up with.
great ideas to propose,
Right.
and the board can take that information and move forward in some way.
And it's similar to how, we've done it before, like we'll be looking for people to participate. People who are interested, if they would like to participate, could let us know. We'll have to get word out what that will be, how do you do that and get word out to people so that they can participate. And I like the idea of what they call an open chair, so that there's always a place that somebody, if they can't come every time, they could come one time and just express themselves, or twice or three times. But I think all of this is about trying to get as much information as we can, because this is a big deal. And there was a lot of concern, a lot of worry about a whole reconfiguration. In the community, on the board, there's just a lot of concern about that, what that will mean. But we're presented with a lot of issues that come along if we don't do something, and a lot of the benefits that some of the school staff suggested would help with that kind of reconfiguration. But it's a community effort, and I think that's what we need to do.
I'm just going to reiterate, the current proposal of reconfiguration is off the table.
So do we have to make a motion and accept that we've tabled it, or is it just tabled? I'm just asking.
I don't think you have to.
Yeah, I don't think you do, because it's just this direction that
So at this point, we're saying there will not be reconfiguration. We're going to have a community task force to problem solve the issues that are being presented as the reason why we need to have reconfiguration.
So school will stay the same for next school year.
So are we to expect there's going to be more reasons?
Well, the task, in my view, the task force was come up with suggestions, give them to the board. to have that discussion, to answer the questions that you have.
Well, I'm just saying, because if you're looking at having it go till March, in April or May, we can't say, okay, well, we're changing the following school year. Do you know what I mean? That's all.
I would think that,
So I would
I would think that the board would, I would agree with you that the
That's all.
board probably wouldn't go down that road. But it's up to the board to make that decision as a whole group. One way or the other.
Maybe an entirely different way to look at it.
Well, I
We haven't
think we
heard yet.
discussed this during the summer, that there may be entirely different
Mhm.
ways to look at this, and we talked about having some.
Presentations on that.
So Bart, you did say that this would be a committee that was similar to the 2030 committee. Since I wasn't on the board at that time, I don't really know anything about that. Is who leads this committee? Is
Well,
this
we-
committee led by the board, or is it?
We discussed that at the committee meeting last night. It's similar to the 2030 committee. We'd have an outside facilitator is one idea to bring in. That could direct this group to the time it was convened to come up with the solutions that we're looking for.
Okay.
And that's what we did with the 2030 committee. And if you recall, that 2030 committee that we started 2 years ago, the administration and this board has used the recommendations from that committee to set board goals, set board policies. And that committee and the work they produced got a lot of traction
Mhm.
and it helped the board out.
No, I think this is a good idea. I'm just trying to understand some of the basics of that committee. So
So it was
where
made,
do you-
it was made up of staff members, members of the community, stakeholders. We started, I think, close to maybe 30 people when we started.
Mhm.
It was right before COVID. And, eventually that 30 got dwindled down over the course of time, but I think we had maybe 4 or 5 meetings. 4 meetings. Yeah. And they went, 2, 3, 4 hours. To come up with the recommendations of it.
And how do we come up with that third party? Where is that third party?
Well, that one, Randy would find a facilitator. You talking about the
Mhm.
facilitator?
Yeah.
Randy in the past has provided the facilitators, the various task forces in the past, so we would ask him to do the same thing here, is to look at a facilitator, have that discussion.
And where would you go about generating that facilitator?
I'd reach out to my colleagues first, see if they have had somebody recently who's done maybe a similar work or, these type of topics, if they recommend it in that regard. We've used some different facilitators in the past, reach out to them. School boards has facilitators. There's different groups that kind of have them out there, so to speak. Couple choices at this time.
And as this process went along, would this be something that only the innovation committee would be working through, or would this be information that you'd be providing to the entire board as we work through that?
I would think they would report back to the board, not like after every meeting, like it'd be like notes. After each meeting, so the board, the whole public could see what's going on. I mean, what's going on or what's happened, last week.
Now, let me ask this question, Randy. Now, if the board decides to move forward with this recommendation, the task force, is there a certain limit on how many board members could be part of that?
4.
Only 4.
Otherwise you have quorum.
So I guess if anybody on, my thought, if anybody on the board
Quorum
wants to
could come and watch, I guess, they just can't. We'll double check, but that could still be dicey. I'd say no more than 4 in a row.
right. So
And that's just legal. That's
you know, if anybody wants to participate on the board, and,
I certainly would. So it seems like there could be more than 4 who would be interested in participating.
so we'll have to work that out. We want one of the board wants to, what we can allow. Do that.
Yeah, we've talked about it. We just have to make sure that obviously no action can be taken. Like a retreat.
Right.
So that'd be something like that. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So that's a recommendation from the.
Transparent about it. I don't want people to think, oh, they're gonna come up with some, do something.
And if the board wants to move in a direction and in a different direction, you know, that's, they want to propose that, that's fine too. It's up to the members of the board.
Anything else? Policy committee?
All right, we met tonight. We have two policies that are first read. We have our social media use that you guys will see, as well as a clarification for curricula and how families can go about letting us know if they don't approve of something that we are using for our like books or whatever. And then Ryan shared that he is looking into our purchasing policy. And he's going to look at updating a couple of things that he saw when he was looking through it. We're also going to look at organizing our policy book that's online so that it's a little bit easier to go through. And some of the things that are listed on there that we've removed as a board can get removed off of the webpage and those types of things. So if anyone wants a presentation, Ryan has copies. It doesn't have audio, but it's still very informational. So
What, right?
purchasing policy.
Purchasing policy.
See?
Go pass it on, he wants it. He's retired, he needs reading material.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, I'd be interested.
See, look,
Perfect. Oh,
there you go.
okay, John? Okay.
It's been a while since we've had a new policy come to the board, so this is the first reading. There'll be a second reading, the next regular meeting, and the third meeting, you'll approve it. Okay, so if you have questions or think there should be edits, just pass them along to Tara. Process the policy.
Okay, superintendent updates.
So just, we're already certainly planning for 2023 and beyond. Just for your information, administration is directed to work with teachers, develop any proposals for any type of new programs, courses, et cetera, for next year. And they'll submit those proposals by the end of January, where then we'll collectively prioritize and work those out, determine whether they'll be part of the budget for next year, if we have a budget impact for next year. That's going on. The tradition does each year at this time. Just also information, and this is for everybody, graduation measures. The state, right before COVID hit, had begun to post regional sessions on looking at revising graduation requirements in New York State. And they were paused during and they just started them back up last month, beginning of this month. There is sessions all across the state, though since they're virtual, anybody can sign up to do it. I go to the state website and you can participate in them. There's several guiding questions that they ask. What do we want all kids to be able to know and do when they graduate? Is there other ways that you could assess whether kids are ready to graduate? How do we assess citizenship? Those types of things. Some of the guiding questions. There's also on the website a thought exchange. Actually, we were talking about using sort of the survey for that stuff. So you can go out, you can present your thoughts on there, then you can go in and read everybody else's thoughts across the state, and you can actually star them if you want or comment on them. So it's anonymous, so it's monitored. Thought exchange is going across the state about these graduation measures. I know there's right now their timeline is do this and do a panel, come up with recommendations to the whole board of regents, and then maybe by 24, 25, they'll actually come up with something. So I know there's just folks frustrated that it's taking that long. then they'll have to start all over again. It will change in 3 years or 4 years, but that's the process they're at right now. So this is your opportunity. If you don't like Readiness exams, this is the time to say it. If you think there's a better way to assess how kids should demonstrate readiness to graduate. The work we're doing here at CA with our Readiness Indicators, I know the Chancellor and Commissioner have that in their pile of stuff. They asked for it from us. So that's something they may look at as an alternative type of way to measure readiness for graduation. So. And then just again, I just want to shout out to our food service. December's Food Service Appreciation Month. Every month we recognize one of our groups here. So food service is this month. So if you see anybody, say thank you for everything they do for serving thousands of meals every week, breakfast and lunch. Their flexibility in all this has been going on for the last couple of years. And the administration next week, we are stepping in to take over serving lunch for the day. Anyways, that's fair one. We're not cooking. Don't worry, we're not cooking. Well, that's not you maybe, but we're just serving. So give them a little break one day.
Okay, thank you. Building and department highlights. So Martino.
Hello.
Hello.
A lot of good things happening down here at CJA. We did not turn all of our blow-up signs because it'd be too loud for everybody. Cocoa cookies with claws this month. Our PTO did a wonderful job. It was an outside event, featured cocoa cookies and Santa Claus, of course. He came in on a antique fire truck, courtesy of the West Athens Firehouse. There's a steady stream of families throughout the morning. The children really enjoyed the activities. Like I said, it was outside. So we've been doing a lot of our activities outside, and it's a little different. And I think we might be starting some new traditions because I think a lot of parents and families are enjoying that. Our boys running club, it's a new club this year. Our 3rd and 4th grade boys were very upset that the 3rd and 4th grade girls have running club. They've had them for 2 years now, so they got together and they wrote letters and they came, presented why they should have a running club. It was really nice to see them advocate for themselves. Our 2 resource officers, Officer Place, who's right there, and Officer Russo stepped up, and they're the club coaches, and they've been running for about a month right now. They go 2 times a week. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say a quick thing for Randy Callahan, who, I'm going to say all this, but she's done a really tremendous job setting up pre-K classroom. She's been wearing 2 hats with the work that she's been doing with RTI. She just transitioned to start setting up her room. She's trained the person that's coming in to take over for her. Just doing an outstanding job, and I'm really excited to have her down here work with the little ones.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So at Coxsackie Elementary, we had a great holiday evening with Santa this past weekend. Our PTO hosted that. Again, as Mr. Martino had mentioned, the outdoor venue has been a blessing, and some of the traditions that we've started, we're hoping to maybe sustain them in the future, regardless of the situation that we're in. Our holiday sing-along, we usually have that in the auditorium, but because we won't be able to house that many people along with our current school body, we are recording that. So under the direction of Mrs. Greenway, she's working with Frank O'Rourke, who is our media specialist, yes, to be able to put that all together. And they've been doing a fabulous job doing the recordings down. They'll be available right before the holidays, so I'll get that out. And the other thing that just happened were our parent conferences. I'm sure Jim and I will both be reporting our parent conference numbers. We have a few more that we're just trying to get in, and still urging we strive for that 100% conference time. And we gave them options. Some did come in, and we felt the need for some of our families to come in to have those conferences,
but we did a lot of virtual as well as phone conferences. So we were able to get most of them. Most of my numbers are, one-off, but we're hoping to get the rest these next couple days before we let out for the holiday recess. But we will report those numbers very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Well,
I think the middle school, the big update, which did not make it on the good news because it hadn't happened yet. We were the first concerts this holiday season. The 5th and 6th grade concert was Tuesday, and 7th and 8th grade concerts were yesterday. Kids did a great job. The conductors, our directors did a great job. We live streamed, so Frank did a great job. And the talk around 5th grade is that they're all YouTube stars. Like, they are just amazed that they're on YouTube. That is, we made them YouTube stars, so thank you, Frank. So that's the big thing. The students are looking forward to the next concert, and it's wonderful to be able to bring that back because it's been a while. And then, next week, the middle school will be having spirit days all next week. So a little bit of fun before kids go home for Christmas. Fingers are crossed. At some point, I'm sure next week, people will be putting pencils in the freezer and wearing their pajamas inside out because they really like a snow day. I think ice cubes in the toilet, I don't know. But
Can't help them when it's 60 degrees out.
I know.
It's struck, not that.
That's they're all hoping for a white Christmas, but things are going great. A lot of good stuff on Saturday. Looking forward to much needed break.
thank you.
Sure. Frank, good evening. At Coxsackie-Athens High School, the Interact Club raised close to $1,000 through our annual book sale and some community donations for the holiday Adopt a Families. Just this past Monday, I had 3 students in the Interact Club along with 2 advisors go out and shop for 23 Coxsackie-Athens students for the holidays. I do have pictures. I can share them with you at some point. We wanted to thank all the donors and supporters for helping, our students for the holiday. Academically, this year, Columbia Green Community College started a brand new career connection program, which is with starting with juniors, second semester junior. Savannah Vinsani accepted her nomination for Coxsackie-Athens. And so it's a 1.5-year commitment at Columbia Green. And if upon successful completion of the program, it lands a $2,500 scholarship to Columbia Green, which is very, very exciting. Finally, myself, Ms. Dyer, and Dr. Mercer had a preliminary meeting in regards to a mentoring program, which will start at least 7 through 12 next year. So we're very, very excited. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So one of the things I want to talk about tonight is we have started this year in the special ed department an applied math class. In the applied math classes, we have Mrs. Solder and Mrs. Collins are currently, what they're doing in this applied math class is really interesting, is that they are taking jobs that are out there for survey, and in that sorry, let me back up. They gauge, what they did was they put a survey out to students that were in the class, seeing what careers and jobs are interested in and how math is applied in that career and job. And then what they ended up doing is they used that, they explored how math is being used in the culinary field. They're using it, how math is applied in the medical field, in mechanics. They're taking it, they went to the life lab, they how to use fractions, how to use the pricing and scaling in the life lab, and they made the food. So it worked out really. It's a great class. the kids are loving it, and we're hoping that, you know, they're gonna do mechanics next, and then they're heading into graphic art and how math is used in that. So it's a great class, so I'm hoping to be reporting out on, you know, what the other units look like in that class, and Miss Soldner and Mrs. Collins are having a blast with the kids, so it's a great program. So have a good holiday to all of you.
Thank you. You too.
Good evening. I know you just recently presented, so I'll keep my updates brief. We have received monitors for the new incubator room and with the stands. We're currently working with the high school tech department because we need them to create a place to put the mini computer as well as the Apple TV. So each setup is going to have a large 32-inch monitor, a stand, an Apple TV, as well as a mini Windows computer for the students. We're also really excited to receive a loaner clear touch panel for the pre-K class to test it out instead of a smart board. It was something we recently saw at the Tech Awareness Day, and we're excited to get a loaner to see if it's a good fit for us here in the school. We have deployed email encryption to our offices and including district leadership and counselors to make sure our data is safe when it's sent across the internet. And we are currently exploring two new things. One is the opportunity to fax without a fax line and meeting the COPA and the HIPAA requirements, as well as exploring software to control our print jobs. So instead of sending it to the printer and it sits there, where we would actually hold it in a queue and then you pass your ID across the module and then it would print. And it would actually save us paperwork because each print job requires a teacher name and a blank piece of paper. So we're trying to save some paper there. So those are my updates. Have a good holiday, everybody.
No athletics, right? I guess Grace Bartel, Kurt was wise. Mr. Wilkinson was wise to have Grace Bartels give his report. She did an excellent job. School services update.
All right, here's round one for you guys. It's the first time here. So called the county deputy director and they confirmed that the senior disabled exemption has been maxed out, so that we'll see no change. They did indicate that they're hopeful that the state legislature will address this soon to increase that maximum. The school budget development calendar has been posted onto your agendas with the full schedule up there. Some highlights on there, things that have already happened. The staff in all the buildings have received their requisition forms. Those will be due back to us by January the 10th. At this point, all fall coaches have completed their exit interviews with Coach Wilkinson and supplied to him their requisitions for fall athletics. The first budget workshop is going to be on February the 3rd. And just to get the budget moving, one of the things that Leslie and I have been working on is taking budget line by budget line and seeing where our last 4 years average was and how that compares to our existing budgeted amount, just to try to level things out a little bit. So that's how we've been looking at that. Be happy to explain the math of that to anybody that is willing to hear me at any given time, because that stuff excites me. Food service fund balance update. We received a letter from the state asking us to spend down our fund balance in the food service department. I met with Mary DeStefano. We came up with a long list of things that the food service department would like. We actually just put in our first order with B&G the other day. Some of the highlights on that are a kettle for the middle school, service lines for each of the elementary schools, and updated cookware for the high school. The great high school cafeterias, I like to put it. Flatbread pizza is dominant. And then finally, we did put out the solar bid with other districts. Despite us going out with community solar options, nobody came back to us. No companies came back to us. So that's that. And then I know this is her last board meeting with us. So Leslie, I just want to say thank you so incredibly much for everything.
Structural link.
I think
I
first
think-
of all, Leslie should be making guest appearances at future board meetings.
Oh,
about that.
For instructional services updates, you should have received in your board packet the links updates from the principals. If you have any questions, so we gave you the information on the K6, what their links goals were and where our baseline data is for the year. And you also have the updates for the 7 through 12 links goals and where we are for that for the year. Were there any questions or principals? Did you have anything else you wanted to add? Or just any questions?
Was this the spreadsheet too? Is that part of that? Or is this something separate?
Yeah, it's part of the
Part of
data. Yeah.
That doesn't look familiar to me from a
Just the reading,
distance.
just the reading data.
It's a
It was
reading
the
aid.
math and the
Okay.
reading scores that we had gone over. I was just concerned when I was looking at this, the percentages that you had shared with us in September didn't match the percentages that were on here for 2020, 2022, or 2020, 2021. And I was just trying to figure out which, because I know we had asked for the scores for the fall of this year, because we were trying to compare them, but a lot of the numbers that are on here aren't what was shared with us prior, so I wasn't sure which numbers we should be looking at.
I think that is a document that Randy put together. I was looking at, do you have this one? This is the one the principals prepared.
No, this one I had gotten.
Eric.
Is it?
That's what Eric.
Oh, that's something that, we'll take a look at it. If you go in, because this should have been attached to your packet. This is
Yeah,
what the
no, I looked at
principals
that. I
prepared.
just was, because I know we had asked for where the kids were at starting off in the fall, because we were trying to compare it, and that's what this paper is doing.
That's that
But the numbers, I mean, some of the numbers are even like 4% difference.
from the one that the principals put in the links.
Yeah,
Yes, okay. I'll look on that and see. This is, the principal's data was what I was going off of, but I'll take a look at that sheet and get back to you as to why there would be a difference.
Anything else?
Right, then, I just want to give you an update on pre-K, because we can actually say it in public now. We were made aware about a month ago now at this point. We put in for the competitive money that was available for pre-K, and we were successful with that grant, which will allow us to open 2 more classrooms. One will be an integrated classroom that we will be doing with a CPO, and then one will be our second Coxsackie owned, so to speak, classroom. So Brandy will have a part. So what we are excited about is that for this year, we'll be able to open 2 of our own sections. Our CBO, which is Circle of Friends, is not ready yet to start an integrated program, mostly because anybody who works with special ed kids knows it's very difficult to transition them in the middle of the year. And our kids happen to be in 3 different classrooms, so it would be pulling them out of 3 different classrooms to put them together in this campus. They're all set to work with us come September. But for the remainder of this year, we will have the 2 Coxsackie-Athens sections. They'll both be housed here at Edward J. Arthur. So we're in the process of reaching out to the parents who are on the wait list to let them know that they are in. Randy's also going to send something out to parents who may not have registered because they figured there weren't any spots left, to see if we can fill up both of those sections. But we're very excited because we had 5 people who were on the official wait list, and then another 6 people who had registered within a month or 2 of the closing of the deadline for the pre-K. So we already know we have about 12 people, assuming they all are interested in sending their kids to pre-K. So we're very excited.
Plus the 18.
Plus what?
Plus the 18.
Plus the 18 that were already in the classroom, yes. So there's definitely an interest and a demand, so we're very excited. But we have to get it all staffed and we have to get furniture in. I would like to say a thank you to Greenville and Caro, who have loaned us some furniture just in case our furniture doesn't come in for the start week. Any questions on that?
So who worked on the grant?
It was myself and Dr. Mercer.
Well, thank you. We thank you both for your work to secure it.
Just because I have to toot my own horn for one second, it's $360,000 a year, so I'm very excited. It is what's nice about it, which makes no sense, but then again, the state never makes any sense. The money that we were given from the state for the pre-K classroom at Brandy was half the money per student that the competitive grant was, so it's a lot more money, which is very nice. So we're also reaching out to try and work with a business to do some playground stuff that was part of the grant as well. So we're very excited. It's a nice piece of money, so we're.
Is there an end to that grant? Like,
So-
I know sometimes, like the food grant was only a certain number of years. Is there like a?
There is no end date. You know, I always say the state can always take anything they want to take whenever they want to take it, but this is that pool of money where once you get in, you know, the other districts around us have had it for probably like 20 years at this point. They're universal pre-K. So
And do we get
it's
the,
very exciting. I think it'll be great.
do we get the full 360 this year, or is that?
No, you get half of it because we're only doing a half-year program. We also, which we'll be letting all the parents know, we have to be in session for 90 days in order to get the money. So right now, we counted it out and we have 91 days in the calendar. So we decided that would be if we started at January 31st. So we decided we're gonna pull that back and start at January 24th to give us some snow days. We thought we could throw in a remote day here or there if we needed to, but we found out from the state that unless we did it for K-12 or pre-K-12 in this case, it wouldn't count. So we're gonna build in a few extra snow days. So we will start the program on the 24th. So we're gonna be rocking and rolling, getting everything set to go.
Thank you. Okay, so public correspondence is what you have on your agendas. Those folks who you all have copies of. And we will organize responses. Public comment portion, I just want to go over some, well, our rules, this was requested by board and others. And this is what everybody sees when they sign up anyway. And it's probably what's written on the other side of that. So I'll just be going over this with folks here, but also that are streaming in. That persons wishing to speak should indicate so on a public input form found at the sign-in table up at the door. Each person may comment to the board once. The first public input session is reserved for those who have signed up to speak regarding items on the agenda. The second public input is for both agenda and non-agenda items. At the public input portion of the meeting, the board president will ask persons wishing to speak to move to the podium and introduce themselves and any organization they may be representing at the meeting. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers are encouraged to submit in writing any additional comments. And we now have this timer that Jamie and works and we can see on the screen. Comments about any employee, student, or community member that is personal or negative cannot be discussed in public to respect all the constituents we serve. What we've talked about with our attorney in this respect is that basically it kind of rules out even positive comments. So we just won't be, we're going to be asking that people not make comments in public about an employee, student, or community member. The exception is Mr. Squire because of how we're set up. We are Mr. Squire's, the board is Mr. Squire's supervisor, and this coming to the board is the way that the public can, you know, ask questions or ask us to look at different things about Mr. Squire. Everybody else has a supervisor, either Mrs. Squire or under Mrs. Squire. We supervise and evaluate Mr. Squire. That's why that's such. The board does not generally respond immediately to issues raised, but may ask clarifying questions. I know sometimes it appears that we're just looking back and we're not responding. I may respond a few times or not. Any board member can ask a clarifying question, but we're careful that we really don't have the answers for you in the immediate and for anybody else who's streaming, which is why we would ask that things be put in writing and we can follow up and ask the administration to follow up. After the board has asked questions, if they have any, the speaker will be thanked and will leave the podium. And we would encourage speakers to submit their comments in writing as well. And the board will direct the administration to research the concerns presented, and generally, there is no discussion between the speaker and the board, as I just mentioned. The board will not deliberate or take action regarding requests presented at this meeting. If public follow-up is required, it will be presented at a subsequent meeting. And we ask for visitors to respect all speakers during the public session and to avoid engaging in other conversations while the board conducts its business. Since this is our board meeting and the public, there's a section of the meeting that we invite the public to come and share perspectives with us. And I'm sure influence us or impress on us different things that you'd like us to know about. But we will always try to be respectful on the board, and we ask that everybody's respectful as well. I think this will be a way that we can hear people. We're committed to hearing people. We want to hear people. We want to hear letters, emails. People come because that's how we learn about things. And in addition to surveys and such. Surveys, we try to get to people because we've heard from people that people are skittish about coming to board meetings now. They're worried about putting things in front of the public. But people can write to us. And that's one of the other reasons we ask for surveys. We put surveys out when we do, is if it's a particularly tough topic to try to resolve, that we will reach as many people as we can who maybe don't feel comfortable sharing in public, or they just can't come here. We've heard from people who they have jobs at the time of the meeting, or they have children there watching and helping with homework. They have other things they have to do, they can't be here. So we're trying to get as much input and investment as we can. And on the back, you'll see the different ways that people can address concerns as they come up. We have some? Melissa Slater.
Hi, I'm Melissa Slater. I'm a mom of 3 students here at CA. I felt it was important to reach out to you all first. Thank you for your efforts in navigating COVID and all the requirements imposed from the state. I understand that a lot of the protocols and decisions are not something that you have been able to choose and are being forced to comply from your agencies higher up. As we move forward, I hope that you will continue to have the best intentions of our students, families, and faculty members at heart. With that being said, I urge you to please advocate on our behalf if and when our school is able to start making our own decisions on the COVID protocols. I feel very strongly that any decisions on masking, testing, and especially vaccination should be made by each student with their own family. Every situation is unique, and I hope you can see the unfortunate divisiveness that these issues are causing to our students, faculty members, and a community as a whole. Each family should have the right to decide what is best for them and their children without having to make a life-changing decision to possibly pull their child or children from the school system. COVID is here, it is never going away.
It is going to be just another virus that we have to learn to live with, as we have done with the flu for many years. Please let the state know that parents are not okay with forced vaccination.
Thank you. Mr. Piggott?
Well, they came and addressed the board, asked them 4 questions. No one had the courtesy to get back to me. I know I left heated. I'm going to re-ask the questions. It's in relation to my daughter not participating in a event, which was the banquet. 1, I'd like to know when it became a requirement to be vaccinated for the school. 2, how is it not discrimination against people that are not vaccinated to participate? You have if you're vaccinated, oh, you can do it if you're not showing signs, but if you're not vaccinated, now you're dirty. I hope that's more plain. And how is it not a violation against the HIPAA Act, being it's not a requirement yet, to ask someone if they're vaccinated? I hope people are writing these down so I can get a call back. And 4, when my daughter was addressed on, when this was addressed, it was on a Friday afternoon, that she couldn't go on that Saturday. We got a call in the afternoon. It was already almost 4 days after they knew about it. And then they got in touch with me. The principal got, well, not directly, he left a message. And there was no way to get back to him. I had to get in touch with the coach. How did that work? 4 days afterwards, I mean, she could have killed everybody. No, that's the way everybody's acting now. We all know that this is a light of garbage and it's social re-engineering. Okay, this mask. Everybody's up here playing along just because someone asked the governor. It's not a law. So I would like a response to those 4 questions.
Did you submit them in writing?
Yeah, I did.
You did,
last
okay.
month, too.
Okay, good. Got it.
Is that it? Thank you.
Thank you. Dress up.
You've also
El
wanna
Shine.
Let me get my stuff together.
No problem.
Thank you.
Jessica Vermillion.
I feel this frustration. I really do, because I have contacted the district office, Randy, you guys individually, and I still haven't heard anything back. Other than Randy, I don't know if you know, he presented me with a letter from a lawyer about COVID testing. I did not hear, and in the letter, it just said you guys reviewed my accommodation, but not what your decision was on whether he was to look into it or what. So I don't know if you guys are aware that he had served me the papers from a lawyer, or that he met with me, or what your decision is on the accommodation.
So you have something in front of us in terms of an accommodation from,
Asking about the saliva test accommodation
Okay.
that I've been asking.
and you're waiting for an answer.
Yes, not a Randy answer, like what
It
the
would be,
board.
it would be a Randy answer.
Yeah, why? Why is it
He's-
Randy?
He's the superintendent. Yeah. And so
I mean,
it was my understanding there was there's a lot of things happening, a lot of meetings and a lot of discussion. And I don't
I
think that we
understand.
have all that information day to day where the administration would.
I do. I printed the emails out and the letter from the lawyer, and I'll give each of you a packet. I did request an executive meeting with the board, which the district office has been ignoring my emails and not getting back to me. So I have no trust in them at all, that they are telling me what's going on. So I'm just looking for clarification on what is happening. Do I need to secure a lawyer? are we even actually really looking into it? Because I feel like it's retaliation from Randy, that he's really not been looking into it. Because when this all occurred, I got the email when I was at a doctor's appointment with my mom after her surgery. And that's where I get this email from. So then I'm going back at him, back and forth about this. And I
still,
feel like there's a retaliation because I told him exactly what I thought of him, how he is to staff, how he's condescending, how he treats us is not okay, that we're not transient. The ultimatums. So I feel like it's a retaliation thing, because after that transpired is when he shut down. And then he's like, nope, here's a lawyer letter. Here's a letter from a lawyer. You're gonna do this or I'm gonna suspend you without pay.
well,
That's why I'm looking to you guys, because you are his boss. And I want to know what happened after that meeting. Did you guys make a decision like, hey, we're gonna look at this? Or what are we gonna decide? Because you're the next step. Like, obviously, he's like, no, screw you. That's why I'm coming to you guys.
well, I think I don't frankly know where all this is at with your union and with your meetings you've had. I think it's gonna take some people to try to figure all this out. I know there's some rules and mandates and things that are coming from above
Right, I did
around
give him,
testing and
I'm not saying I'm
and
not gonna
that
test at all.
if you're not vaccinated, the employees need to test every week.
I'm just looking for a saliva test. I'm not saying no
I
testing,
know.
but, and I did
Well,
give
you need an
him,
answer, so I thought,
I did give him the State Department's email that they received from their employer about
all right,
vaccine.
so maybe we set up another time so that we can go over the answer.
Right, I don't want to deal with him and the union guys. I'm asking for you guys to help me
Well,
out, I guess.
it first has to go through him and then your union. And then how.
We did meet with my
how do you
union
want-
rep and Randy.
I don't want to give you like legal advice because I'm not a lawyer.
No,
So, but
I have
I guess I
spoken to
would
3
go back.
lawyers already.
I guess I would talk to the union perhaps. And what are your avenues?
Right. That's why I'm asking what you guys decided on that.
Just start there first.
I did start there. And it's a
Okay, so
dead
we'll
end.
have to come up to speed on that.
It's just Randy saying, you're gonna do what I say, or you're
All right,
suspended
I
without
do hear
pay.
that part, so we'll have to come up to speed on all that.
That's why I asked for an executive meeting. I've been asking since the last time that I met with you guys. And nobody is getting back to me whether I can have an executive meeting or some kind of meeting.
Well,
with the board.
that's, we have, that's a process, a legal process, and we're not human resources. So it just gets into other things, and we have to make sure that we're playing the role that we're supposed to play with our attorney. But I think it seems now that we have to somehow come back together because Randy says that you have an answer and there was a letter. And I don't know if you just don't want to hear the letter. You don't want to accept the letter.
Basically, he said either you get suspended without pay, you do the invasive testing that's against your religious beliefs, or you pay for your own saliva test, which is only $21 more. You can order it. Our nurses that come in to test us with nasal swabs can administer it and turn it in to get the results. It's just $21 more. I mean, I don't understand why I'm not worth $21 when you got $3,444,000 in
Yeah.
COVID money.
It's not.
Where's
just-
the money?
It's not just one person. But I don't, this is just what I said we didn't really want to do. And I hear you. I know you've been coming to us for a while. Maybe we set up something separately to directly address what you're asking.
Thing is, I'm not getting
That's
anywhere.
that's all I can tell you right now.
Okay,
So we'll do that. I'll talk to Mr. Squire and we'll figure out how to do that.
right, because I love what I do. I mean, I wouldn't be fighting this hard for a job. I make $27,000 a
No, I
year at
appreciate that.
with no benefits.
And this is a terrible time. No, obviously, Nobody wants all this. Nobody wants everybody, to be so afraid of being sick and getting sick and
I'm just asking for a
I
reasonable
know, it's
accommodation.
just, I'm just putting it in the context of how it's tough for everybody. So we have to do the best we can. But in this term, we'll talk to him, and get back to you.
I understand. I appreciate that, but do you understand why I have no faith in that? Because I have emailed all of you.
Well, it may not be the answer you want, is the other unfortunate reality. It may not be.
Right.
Right.
I get that.
Okay.
Mr. John. May I just say to you that I am just feeling a little bit, I'm being very careful here, I'm speaking slowly so that I don't say something wrong. But I do want Ms. Vermillier to know that we have received information. I think she's doubting that we're receiving information, and we do, but we are not allowed, we are not able to correspond with you privately. We can't do that. Is that okay to say? And also, in terms of trusting the district office, we have been made aware of many things through the district office. I'm getting many emails per week, and we have had discussions. Is that okay? I just feel I'm frustrated right now for you. So I just want to assure you that we're hearing this, but we have limited, yes, we do supervise Mr. Squire, and we did have a quite long conversation in an executive session recently, but our abilities are limited by the law. Is that okay? Please.
Well, and I think that,
I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated to sit here
and we have to
feel-
consult with the school district attorney too, because we're really individuals where, we represent the school, but we need legal advice and, to get into details, but we can't just pontificate and make something up. And we have to think things through. It's like if it were just about one person, that's one instance. But once you say it's something like, once you make an accommodation for, even to take this out of it, once I let one child sit in the front seat, I have to be prepared to let another child in the front seat. Once I do that, I have to let everybody get ready to sit in the front seat or have it turn, so it's, and then if it costs me money to have that child sit in the front seat, I have to pay that other child and the other child and other, so it could get quickly expensive.
I do understand that. I do.
And it's just something that we have to consider.
Because I've
And it's not,
thought about that
it's
myself.
not, yeah, no, and it's, no disrespect.
But I've done a lot of legwork to get here,
Yes.
where others might just try to piggyback off me, but
Yes,
I mean, I just feel like I've just been asking for this since the beginning and fighting for this. That's why I'm just asking. You don't have to accommodate every child that wants something. Like my daughter who gets anxiety from wearing a mask and going to school, she gets accommodated to go take a mask break. Doesn't mean every kid gets that. But certain circumstances, I feel that people should have that option. There is laws that protect people religiously where they can have an
Yeah, and
accommodation.
that's why we would consult attorneys. What are our options? What are your options? What can we do or not do?
I just, like I said, I feel it's retaliation, and I really didn't feel like you guys were getting the emails because there was no responding back. It was like dead zone, not like, no, you can't have a meeting with, no, you can't.
Well,
It was just
we
nothing.
get emails, as Ina said, but again, we're not the Human Resources Department. We work with Randy. Randy, Mr. Squire, oversees the district.
Right.
And that's where it comes from. Where we might come into play is at the end of the whole process. And maybe at the end of new enlisting union assistance, whatever that looks like, at the end of the process, because there are other processes.
I don't know the processes because
Well, I
nobody
would
really
talk to the youth.
telling what the processes are. That's why I was just asking you guys what your decision was, because I know you're his boss, you oversee him. So if you tell him to do something and then he doesn't do it.
Well,
then
okay, we'll talk and then talk. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fielding?
I think it really helps that I'm prepared anymore. It's ever changing. And I used to think that you send a text message or an email, it's very easy to be dismissive of that. Coming to board meetings and speaking, I've learned that you can be dismissed in person as well. And I feel like there's a lot of people here that have expressed that. And many of the people that have come forward and few that are here tonight are colleagues of mine in an organization that we as parents and community members and taxpayers that none of us have talked about this to each other. And I thought it was pretty ironic that tonight we all showed up with the intent of speaking about being dismissed. This wasn't an organized thing. This wasn't something that we talked about. So I think despite what I came here to talk about, that's something I want to point out first and foremost. I also want to say to Ina, you showed a lot of compassion for Mr. Familia right now. I think that's very nice of you. You gave her something. You let her know that she's a human being and that you're a human being. And you connect with her. I appreciate that. Mr. Donahue, I'm not a fan of yours, you know that, as far as the way you conduct yourself here. I think tonight, though, you have behaved more like a board president than I've seen you act in the past. So it is what it is. Mr. Wallace, I can appreciate the notion, the idea of a blueprint for future boards in regards to reconfiguration. What it takes to create that blueprint sounds, I guess in government they call it pork, because it costs money to do that. And that money has to come from somewhere, whether it's a grant, whether it's from taxpayers, whatever. I also don't think that a lot of people in the community, myself included, fully understand what the job of this board is, because we're not seeing a job being done in a way that we anticipate. So, we talk about reconfiguration of schools, but we really should be talking about the reconfiguration of the board and the policies that govern it and how things are done to appease a community, to appease voting taxpayers and parents and people that have their own vested interest in what happens here and within the community. We don't raise children, we raise adults. They're not going to be children forever. And that's what this is all about. I mean, this is about kids. This isn't about how I think about you or me thinking he's an able. You know what I mean? And it's not about me standing up here pontificating. Got it. I'll keep it chill.
Thank you.
But the reality is, this is about the kids. And when we stop making it about the kids and we start making it about ourselves, then we have a problem. And that problem needs to stop. That problem needs to go away, and we need to fix how we do things here. I didn't plan on really saying a lot of this stuff, but sitting here and listening to how things have been going, I just figured I'd just go off the cuff because this is exhausting. And I'm sure that's not easy for everybody here neither, but this is really exhausting. There's some of us who are spending a lot of time outside of these meetings working to say and do and present what we want to say and do and present. We just want to know that you guys are doing the same thing. We want to know that the board is listening and is hearing and is responding and not getting singular emails from Mr. Squire asking for private meetings. Every single one of those emails comes across my desk. There's people here that share with me and I share with them. It's not appropriate for Mr. Squire to conduct himself that way.
Your time is up, Mr. Gillen. Thank you.
All right.
Al. Thank you.
I do want to say one more thing as I'm walking away. We need to have a conversation or have some sort of response in regard to the petition that was presented last month. You know, we can say that, you know, it can be potentially used during an evaluation in May or whatever, but we need to be more solid than that, because May is a long time, you know, and
Yeah, well, can only just add that, like, again, we are in a sense, Mr. Squire's human resources, but we have that employee-employer relationship, and we basically have to respect his privacy and how we supervise and evaluate and discuss whatever comes up.
right.
We have to respect that. And
And I can understand and I can appreciate that, but when an individual is accused of retaliating personally or gaslighting, taking a private meeting with somebody
I just
can create a.
I just want
very
to say that
inappropriate
piece about
situation.
the whole HR. But thank you, Mr. Dillon. Appreciate it.
For further knowledge, none of us will be taking private meetings, so don't ask anymore.
Okay, superintendent's recommendation. Oh, did I forget one? Oh, are you ready? So you shouldn't have taken a bye. I moved you over to the left.
I actually, I don't have a lot to say tonight about the reconfiguration as you guys went over that. The only thing I did want to speak about in regard to configuration was that we really didn't go over was the financial impact of reconfiguration. The taxpayers foot the bill for this, you know, and we it's a big decision that directly impacts us. And that's a couple things I wanted to make a point about is that Athens pays 35% of their tax levy. So that's for EJA. I guess I know you don't take questions, but this is in regard to reconfiguration and the survey. So I guess I agree with Jamie. That's what I did put in my letter, that this has been a very, very long ongoing issue that, it's far too important and affects so many of us that could have lasting consequences. And obviously the vote, majority opposed at 60%. It's kind of hard, even though I'm sitting right there with the mask on. So I guess my question is, why is it that we're continuing, if we got the results for the survey, why are we continuing to investigate, do another committee, instead of taking what the community spoken, right? We did the survey, everybody was patient. So why are we looking into something else? I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. Nobody can answer that for me?
Well, our board president needs to respond.
Well, I think I'll just try to be brief too, but we still have the problems, so if we don't do the reconfiguration and we hear that there's a lot of dismay in the community to that, there is some in agreement, but if we don't do that, what do we do? So the point of this task force, and perhaps you might be on it, would be to look at, okay, here's the problems that we're facing. It really is a community. So how can we deal with them? How do we deal with the decreasing enrollment? And we're still waiting for one more feature that Ina had requested a month or so ago about the people moving in with little ones who might be coming to school.
Right.
And if that might change some of it. But if the enrollment's declining, and then the issues that have come to us from the administration around educating the kids and doing it equitably and with the workloads being equitable between all the staff, and that the benefits of having people in one place versus two places, whatever. How does that, how do we fix that? If we don't do this, how do we fix that? And that's kind of like what we're looking for, some recommendations. And there may be 5 or 6 or 7 recommendations that come out of a group of people, of stakeholders like yourself.
Right.
What do we do?
Well, I guess that's, at the end of the day, that's my question, is that I wanted to see, like, is this gonna go on another year, another, 6 months? Because it's very stressful, and as you said, we all have families and children and work, and we're trying to juggle, and while I do respect you guys as far as, I understand you're not paid, neither are we, and we come and take the opportunity to stand up for our children, and I do want to thank Mr. Squire for reaching back out to me, for answering the questions that I did submit. So again, I thank
Well,
you for that.
and thank you, and I want to, and the others who spoke, Ms. Fielding, Ms. Millier, others who spoke, for coming and sharing with us. Because you're right, nobody's getting paid.
Right.
So, and you come and you share your perspective that we don't know unless you do that. And you've been very diligent with the maps and who goes where, and so that's a lot of your time, and I appreciate it.
Right, it's not just here, it's,
Yes, I know,
it does,
I
it
know
does
it is,
consume
yeah.
you. And I also did, she's not here tonight, but I did want to thank Maureen as well. She did reach out to me, willing to meet with me to go over some of my questions, but Mr. Squire was the one who he beat her to the punch because he answered the questions in progress. So I did want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it. Yes. And superintendent's recommendations, program matters. We would need resolution, consent for a, what's it separately? For a field trip. Or we could pair that if there's no concern about that with B 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no one at 5. That's it. The motion to consent for those items.
Make a motion to consent for those.
Second. Any discussion about any of them?
On the baseball trip, is this the first type of, this is the first baseball trip of its kind in recent times?
I want to say yes to the baseball.
Okay.
The other sports have done trips. I'm sorry, other sports have done trips like this, but I believe, I don't recall 10 years baseball.
To that far of a distance away? Okay.
Here it says students will be responsible for travel to and from, but if they were accompanied by a parent or a parent designee, so parents are driving the kids, and whatever parents are driving the extra kids have consent from
Yes.
child A's parent.
Yes, they're going to be, yeah.
I guess it depends on fundraising, because we've all had, even as modified people, had to sell a lot of tickets, $10 tickets and 3 $100 tickets. So I'm hoping that there's money for parents to go with kids, because that's a lot of fundraising.
I just was wondering how they were getting there.
Yeah.
And what if students aren't capable of paying for themselves to get to South Carolina and back?
They will figure it out.
That's all, because I know that's one of our
Yeah,
concerns is always not
Yeah.
saying, sorry, you didn't sell your free tickets and
Well,
your
plus you
10
have the
tickets,
money
you
from
can't
the
go.
I mean, there's been a lot of fundraising for baseball, so hopefully we can make that happen.
Are you going?
No, my son isn't eligible, he's
Oh,
only in 8th grade.
okay.
This is only a varsity baseball trip, it's not for everybody.
Anything else?
So on this trip, for insurance purposes, we covered all bases basis, something like that.
So to speak.
Yes. It's a field trip. Yeah, but we have the umbrella coverage.
Well, the way I look at this is usually local field trips, we provide the transportation.
Right.
Here's a different case. So that's why I look at it from an insurance perspective. Should, you know, be an incident or something, how that's handled. So,
Would we want to ask for, like, as it gets closer, kind of an in-depth, like who's responsible and where they're staying? Is it several days in another state? That's,
What we could do is, when Kurt comes to do his winter, we'll add this to that.
okay.
That'll. Yeah, under February. Because it's February meeting.
Perfect, thank you. That would be great.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Business matters. We have a motion and consent for C 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Any, no further public input that we got? No?
I can't. What you.
Any other public input, the second public? input? All right, round the table then, would you like to start, Nicole?
Yeah, just that I think that everyone is really in employees of all ranges are really doing their due diligence for our kids, and I appreciate that, and I hope that y'all have a really restful break because everyone needs a little break. And so thank you.
For me, I just want to express to Leslie, thank you very much for all your years of service for the district and how you helped me as an individual board member through all these years. And I wish you much happiness in your future endeavors.
Leslie, I said it last time too, I'll say it again, to echo Bart, thank you very much. For the community, again, we do hear you and we do receive your correspondence, and these things don't go unnoticed, and we do appreciate your comments here, and thank you for voicing your opinions and giving us some insight. So thank you.
All of that. And I recently had a conversation and became re-aware of the lack of subs in our building and how other staff members have to be juggled around on a dime and not really know what they're doing. So I really want to appreciate all of the staff, and especially those staff members who may come in the morning thinking they're doing one thing and find out they're subbing for a math class. I don't know. I just want to say thank you.
I guess I'll give a shout out to all of the people that made the concerts happen this week. You know, the music departments that put together the concerts, kids have been working so hard on it. The teachers that have flex time so that they can have those extra rehearsals. And then the tech departments, because one concert I watched online and the other concert I was able to go to in person. So, you know, it was good that we're all able to still do these things, and even when we have limitations. And the concerts were great. Kids did a good job.
I just want to echo the technology part of that. The sports, I know we're working on getting our sports teams up and running on YouTube, and if they're not already on there, they will be. It's really great that we're able to share that avenue with our families. I know other schools are sharing that with us as well. So it's been really great to be able to watch the kids play, but not have to, you know, be there and take away from the parents that do want to stuff. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Leslie, for everything you've done for all of us, with all my crazy questions on money. So thank you very much. You won't miss that, I'm sure. I also just want to thank all the teachers and the staff who have been making these holiday celebrations happen. I'm glad that you guys are thinking outside the box and letting our kids enjoy this time of year. So thank you to everyone. Thank you, principals, teachers, staff.
Good point. A lot of effort's been gone into this, and it's a tough time, as we all know. But I too want to thank you, Leslie, for your many years of service before I even thought of coming on the board, but certainly while I've been here too, that's a lot of help figuring things out. We'll miss you, but we'll know you'll be right at the podium sometime in the future. And just want to thank the board for your contributions to Hope's mission. Got a little thank you card from them for that contribution. And okay. Future meetings. Regular meeting January 20th, 2022 at 6:30. Don't know where yet. And then the next budget workshop on February 3rd, 2022, and the following week, February 10th, 2022, 6 o'clock, regular Board of Ed meeting. And I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss committee and special ed minutes and personnel.
We have to do the surplus.
Which one? Is that,
Addendum. It's an addendum.
All kinds of.
yeah, is what, David?
Section 12 there.
It's the 12, yeah.
And then the.
Yeah, please do that.
Oh, that's
Those books are
12.
sitting in my office and I really would like that space back.
Nope. Skipping it. Have fun.
That would be the best Christmas present you could give me.
Read
Take
all
those
in
books out
I
of
make
my
a
office.
motion
Okay, go ahead,
to
Vicky.
do number 12 for the books to be disclosed.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Opposed, so carried. Now,
Frank,
Go ahead. Snap it right there.